Hello, Abigail here with the Tarotscopes for Aries season, Virgo sun, moon, and rising. All right, my Virgos, this Aries season is exceptional. We start off, obviously, Aries season is also starts on the day of the spring equinox, and it's in the middle of eclipse season. We've just had the Virgo full moon eclipse. We're moving towards the Aries full moon eclipse. There's new moon eclipse, and we are in a Mercury retrograde, and we are in a Venus retrograde. And all of those shifts into the different signs and stationing direct happen in Aries season. So there's a lot happening and there's a lot going on. And this season is a little extra chaotic. There's like the chaos of spring, and then the chaos of the eclipses, and then the chaos of the retrogrades. And it is going to be a bit of a bumpy road. Now, I don't like to, doom and gloom, but with us having come out of the Mars retrograde, it just feels as though we haven't had time to rest. And I don't think we're going to get that for a bit. So it's really about pacing and finding a rhythm that works for you. It's not going to be the optimal one. It's not going to be one that makes you feel refreshed and like ready to kind of participate. This is really more about kind of pacing and sitting in the astrology and doing what we can. Something that's come up in a lot of the readings I've done so far and in readings that I have with clients is putting one foot in front of the other. So it's very much that. It's also showing up in your cards as well, but it is still going to be a lot, and I don't want to pretend that it's not. However, I do think there's some really beautiful gifts and gems and wonders within this season. It's just going to be kind of really low lows and really high highs, which is actually not that far off from Aries energy. That kind of it's either nothing or everything, um, all the time. So that's kind of the landscape. We also have Neptune moving into Aries. We are going to be experiencing, that kind of return into Pisces with Venus and Mercury, and then their final stations in mid to early April. The Mercury direct is on, let me get my brain around this, is on the 7th, and my notes. And then Venus is direct on the same day as the full moon in Libra, which I think is really beautiful. And I do think this is one of those kind of deep breath moments. I also do think once Neptune goes into Aries at the very end of March, we are going to start to feel a little more progression. We're going to start to feel that build towards, oh, things are going to start to loosen. Doesn't mean they're easier. We're just getting more done. And then we're going to have Mercury direct on the 7th, that beautiful Libra full moon, which has some tricky astrology in it, but that Venus stationing direct on the same day, it does feel as though a bit of a sigh is emitted. Yes, our station's a little conflict, not conflict. There's just like a conflict of emotions with stations. There's this feeling of, yes, we've done it. And then, like, why haven't we started moving yet? And then the lessons start to really hit, especially once we go back through the shadow period, that post shadow period. So just know it's a lot. And then Mars goes into Leo. So we have so much astrology. I think it's coming up in the cards and in, the messages that are already coming through from spirit, but just know that it's okay to rest. In fact, it's not just okay to rest, it is essential to rest so that you can kind of pace yourself and really enjoy those moments of pleasure and those little gifts and those gems that the universe is leaving you instead of pushing yourself into burnout or a crash out or whatever. And starting off, I do find this funny, and this I have Virgo placements. The comic, um, "If you don't laugh, you'll cry." And I do love this because the comic is, it's got this kind of silly, goofy look, but that cat does not look exactly thrilled about the situation. In fact, they look like they're crying rainbows. It is this idea of needing to bring levity in to balance out the more serious stuff. And another thing that's been coming up across all of my readings, whether it's on here or in person with my clients, is everything is serious and everything is desperate. So why not have fun doing it? Why not have fun resisting? Why not have fun advocating for yourself? Why not have fun in the moments when there really isn't anything you can do to shift it besides be yourself and continue to do what you have been doing? And if you haven't been doing what you need to do, then bring that in, but bring it in such a way that it is sustainable. And a part of sustaining something long term is joy, is finding happiness in the little things is being the comic. And yeah, it doesn't mean that you're happy all the time. It doesn't mean that it's not serious. It doesn't mean that you don't have very important things to do, but it means that you get to do them in such a way that you don't get burned out and that you have some good memories along with kind of the tougher ones. And as I have a Virgo rising and Virgo moon, I always laugh when I read these because a lot of times it is a read for myself. I'm like, maybe I should take my own advice. Um, so, it's about that balance between the seriousness of it all, the chaos of it all, and then just being silly goofy because why not? Why not bring some levity? And it's important to note that levity doesn't mean that things aren't serious. Levity just means that we're finding a little bright spot in something that's very difficult. Levity or even morbid humor is a coping mechanism. So use it this season. Use that coping mechanism. Use hilarity and silliness to lighten your load a bit because the cards, while we got some really, really delicious ones, the energy is rough. And it's not rough because it's bad, it's rough because it's a lot all the time. We are like double stacked with astrology. And then as we move into the year in May, we get Saturn into Aries. And then in, what is it, July, we get Uranus and Gemini. So it's just this, especially the first half of this year, is just back to back stuff that has to get done and energy that has to get moved and realizations and seeing things crumble because they weren't built to last. And then I do feel as we head towards the end of the year, we get a little bit more like lift beneath us, a little wind beneath our wings, if you will. So laugh, enjoy what you have, find those moments of pleasure, eat the snack, have the fun, hang out with friends, resist and fight, and call and march and do whatever your role is in making the world a better place. But do it with levity, do it with fun, do it with humor. That is also resistance. They want us to be hopeless and sad. Joke's on them. We can make a laugh out of it. Also, if you're a millennial or a Gen Z, I think probably have perfected the art of morbid humor, just because life has never been that smooth or easy, unless you were very privileged. But moving in, I do love your first card. Oh wait, yeah, you did that. Sorry, Mercury's retrograde, and I'm a Virgo rising, so sorry for all the mistakes and me forgetting my words that are about to happen. It's just how it is. Starting off, we have the star. I do love this card. I grabbed this deck intuitively. I'd already read from it. I usually like to cycle them through when I do these readings, but this deck was calling me again. It's a new deck. I have, if you're interested in the name, I can put it in the comments. But I love the star. It is about being guided by a higher power or just by something otherworldly. This is the card of spirits to me, and ancestors, and guides, and protection from harm. It's also the card of hope. So, in whatever you're experiencing in this season, there is hope. Also, that South Node is in Virgo. That's where these eclipses are happening. It's not easy to have the South Node in Virgo. It seems to magnify a lot of the Virgo traits that in proportionate measure are beautiful and good and wonderful and make the world go round. But when on hyperdrive, it can be hypercritical and nitpicky and overwhelmed with the details. And this is a reminder to kind of expand that vision and to also pull in the whether you have Pisces placements or not. One way to kind of counterbalance a moment where it's really intense is to pull in that Pisces North Node. It's still in your chart, whether it's transiting any planets or not, personal planets, or natal planets, and to believe and trust, and also a call to any of you who haven't yet to connect with your guides, to listen to that little knock on the door. If you haven't reached out to your spirit guide, now is the right time. If you haven't connected with any angels or groups that you're supposed to, now is the time to put that desire out into the universe. If you haven't connected to ancestors, now is the time to make an ancestor altar, or even just be like, hey guys, I'm here. I'm ready to talk. Usually I find there's a primary ancestor who is dying to spend time with you. So, it's also a reminder for me to get back on my ancestor spirit game and in shambles. Well, not until after the eclipse. I let myself, which this is a good tip for everyone, I let myself kind of let things go during eclipses. It is not the time to be productive. It's not the time to be, the best in anything or to really force myself to get things done. Sorry, there's something in my eye. Really force myself to get things done or to push ahead. It's the time to trust. It's the time to let the energy do it at once. And if I am overwhelmed, then let the universe do whatever it needs to do because I don't have any answers right now. And that's a good, ethos to take into a moment with the star is to trust in our guides, is to trust in the universe, is to, you know, believe that any effort or labor we have put in is already at work. Energy cannot be made or destroyed. So, whatever energy you harnessed to do the things that you needed to do that might feel a little off the rails right now, it's still working. We're just not privy to it. So, take some hope. Know that if you don't feel like that you're able in this Aries season to connect actively with these guides and spirits and ancestors and angels and whatever group you work with, just know that they're still there. They're still taking care of you. They're still protecting you and holding you and guiding you. So don't lose hope. The star is the card of hope. It's also the card of Aquarius, which I think is really beautiful because often with Aquarius being Saturn ruled, we kind of miss out on the magic. It's also hyper intellectualized. Aquarius is, which in some ways most Aquarians I know are intellectual. But there is a magic to that expansion of thinking that we sometimes, miss a little bit. Then we have the Four of Swords, which is the card of resting. I do like this interpretation because it's not as peaceful as some. It is a painful and forced repose. It actually kind of reminds me of a little more painful version of the Hanged One. So kind of back to what I was saying, and when I do the kind of intro to these readings, I am taking into consideration the cards I've pulled on top of like what I've experienced in all the other readings, and it is time to rest. If you need a nap, take a nap. If you feel like you have a bunch of stuff to do and they are things that can wait till tomorrow, let them wait for tomorrow. You deserve rest. You deserve to sleep. Also, with energy like this, it's just a lot, a lot, a lot. And the best way to digest energy like this is to rest, is to sleep, is to pass out and drool on yourself, is to have a good wipe out nap. Or if you aren't a napper, to just lay down and watch a TV show or something. Just let that energy settle. I don't like to pick a very specific thing that you have to do in order to recoup because there's a lot of guilt and shame in our culture and society around resting and around, binging and things like that. But in this season, sometimes those coping mechanisms are the most healthy and will keep you going the longest. So do what you have to do within obviously reason. Nothing that hurts you, nothing that hurts others. But if you can let it go until later, let it go until later. What is the worst that can happen besides you beating yourself up about it and having guilt and shame, which will make you more tired? So don't do that. The amount of time I have spent guilting myself over something that I couldn't possibly have completed with the energy that I have, therefore depleting more energy. If I had a dime for every time, I'd have a lot of money right now. And then the next one is the Magician, which is very sweet. All of the cards in this deck are different myths and legends. My only complaint with this deck is that they don't have the actual stories in the guide, and they don't have the actual names of the stories. They just have where they're from, which maybe I missed it. Maybe I need to go back and relook. I was very devastated, but I do love this deck. But yeah, there's a lot of magic and inspiration and beginnings in this. And also, I think with the story of Cinderella, kind of making something out of really mundane things, which is something that Virgo is really good at. So, taking the normal day to day and making it deeply magical. And it doesn't have to be like mind blowingly magical, it just needs to be magical for you, you know? So, when you see a pumpkin and a couple of mice, don't think it's a pumpkin and a couple of mice. It's a magical carriage and horses. If you see your life and the condition it is in now and you're like, I haven't accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I'm not where I wanted to be. Look back and see where you've been, and then notice how far you've come. And then also know that in this moment, a lot of stuff is being started and worked on and transformed that you aren't aware of, that you can't see because of how energetically dense everything is. And when the smoke clears, I think you're going to find a lot of magical happenings. You're going to find some glass slippers. We're going to continue with the Cinderella storyline. And trust in that. And I think it kind of goes back to our comic archetype card, this kind of silly hopefulness. The fairy godmother is kind of a goofy character. You know, she just kind of pops up, doesn't really have a plan, throws something together, brings a lot of joy in doing it, and then is like, oh, by the way, here's a really important piece of information, but I'm not going to tell you how important it is. I'm just going to be really sure you get back by then, but don't tell them that, they'd be stranded out in the middle of nowhere without a ride, and being chased by the king's men. So, take that kind of hopefulness, that kind of belief in better things, this belief in that anything can become anything. And that's kind of your guiding light for this Aries season. And knowing that you're not going to maybe see its potential until its potential is met. And that is okay. And you can still invest in something when you don't really know what you're investing in. The amount of times I have had to just put my little toe in the water to, just get something moving and not knowing where that current is going to take me perpetually. And then we have Seven of Wands, which I should have looked this up between the reading. I think it was for Cancers. I cannot remember his name to save my life. It's actually a really tragic story, but I do love its representation of the Seven of Wands. This gentleman here is the fastest person who can drive railway spikes, and they say they're about to take his job with a machine, and he says, I can do it faster than the machine, and he does it faster than the machine, and then he dies. His heart gives out. Sorry for giving the sad tale, but I have to tell you. So it's not that you should let your heart give out, but you are outpacing a machine. You're outpacing a system that doesn't want you to survive and doesn't believe in your innate qualities and power. And in this season, you just need to drive one stake at a time. And I know you should not push yourself into heart failure, but you should just do what is in front of you. Whatever stake you have to hit it. If you remember the Seven of Wands in kind of a more traditional setting, it is someone up on the high ground fighting off other wands. And this is what you have to do. This is you just staying focused. Doesn't mean you need to go pick a fight. It doesn't mean you need to go off your path to go do something. But do the thing that is right in front of you and do it well. And take a nap as well. Me as a Taurus sun pushing the nap cult. And actually, I'm going to bring in the Page of Cups. Sometimes I pull in the card. I do the bottom of the deck, and then I pull sometimes the card after it because I think that's important. It kind of ties this reading up nicely. But we do have the Tower. It's not a huge surprise. We all know that this is a situation that is happening. The season is a Tower season. I think the reminder here is that Tower seasons aren't just to destroy things you have created. Tower seasons are the rebuilding and kind of the demolition of stuff that isn't working out. And if you continue to build on it, it will crumble eventually anyways. And the Tower comes in to kind of clear the air. It's like a storm when you have a really heavy, oppressive weather and a storm comes in. And yeah, there's destruction left behind, but the air feels so much better afterwards. And you can just feel the magnetic energy within that air that you're breathing. So know that this Tower moment is here for a reason. It may not be fun. It may be gross. This is also the story of Rapunzel. And Rapunzel and her prince are being thrown into the thorns, where the Rapunzel loses her sight in the traditional story and gives birth to twins in a cave. And I love this representation because it is also the leaving behind of the past. Rapunzel is leaving behind her hair, and something that brought her a lot of joy, but has lost its function because she has more than just the tower in her hair anymore. She now has a friend and a partner, and someone who cares about her besides the witch. So, it will require leaving things behind, but Those are things who have outworn their usefulness. And last but not least, we do have a Page of Cups. And this goes back to our comic. You need to be silly goofy. You need to do something fun. You need to play and frolic and find joy in the little things in this chaos. Don't forget that it is still spring. Play with the bunnies. Go talk to the narcissus. Go enjoy the grass and the breeze and the sunlight, and remember that the world is beautiful and worth fighting for. As I get all emotional about it. Anyways, my loves, my Virgos, my fighters, I love you all. And I wish you a very blessed Aries season, a beautiful, gorgeous spring equinox. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments or contact me on other places you can find me under the same name, the Keen Witch. Um, and, you know, enjoy the energy that you can and nap with the energy that you can't. Also, like and subscribe if this feels true to you. And I will see you in a different space.